Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Oh, it's a beautiful morning. Everyone is here. It's great to see that. Uh, yeah. So it's Sunday. I just got off a 6 day work week. I'm sorry if I'm a little blurry. My camera has been like auto focusing on my mic and not me, so I am now looking a little fuzzy, and I got to figure out what the real problem is there. Mud Turtle, Fatal Zeph, Terror Shock, everyone in the chat. Good morning, good morning. I know a lot of people are probably heading to church, coming back from church. It is Sunday, not Saturday. So Rocket Star, Wrangler, hello, hello. Yeah, we just have a lot of things that we talk about. They dropped so much news on us, like an insane amount of news on us. This past week alone, we got two developer insights. We got a major load of new cards. Uh, they showed us a bunch of like slightly errated cards for the previous sets that they're fixing. Unfortunately, they put them all in the general chat, so I wasn't able to find them all. So if I do I need a refresher course, please feel free to remind me. I do I need to stay more up to date in the chat, working as much as I do and everything else off of outside of work. It's become more difficult to keep in the know how as you guys are. So I do rely on you guys a lot to keep me up there. Fatal Zeph, subscribe with tier 1. Thank you, man. I truly appreciate it. Mud Turtle subscribed for 9 months in a row. Mud, thank you. Actually, I think 9 months might be a new badge too. Can't stay long between church and services today. No problem, Rangathor. You tune in later if you need to catch it up or whatever you got to do, man. Just happy to have you here. Let's go ahead. Let's just talk about all of these things first. Can we just do that? First of all, we got a developer insight on. You can finally use this. Yes, you can, Fatal Zeph. Yes, indeed, you can. So the first one that we got was the insights on the new mechanics that they're doing. And the new mechanics are the artifacts and the quests. And I pretty much thought it would be after we saw the Frozen Totem that it was like a relic or something like that. Which is really cool. I'm really interested to see that that's a new family. Just from the fact of it is, I'm assuming it's more of a support family. Kind of how locations are supporting other families. I know locations itself can be their own family in a way. So I can see them being tied in like that. But the thing is that a lot of these relics have these really interesting clunky corners, almost like quests that we have been seeing in the Warhammer TCG that they've also put out. In their blessings, they've been seeing these type of quest things. So having these on buffs in the board is really interesting to see as well, to see how that much will change the dynamic of how people outplay their board, especially if once they get to that square corner, it's just a permanent thing. Yeah, I have a channel on my server with all the... Awesome! That will be amazing to keep in mind. Yeah, you have current card changes every tier. That's awesome, Mud. Thank you. Thank you for staying up to date on that as well. Yeah, Mud, you were doing a lot better than me about keeping up to date with all of the things. Apparently it was in Lightseekers before Warhammer. I did read Benny say that as well. That it was something they wanted to do. Because, I mean, let's be honest here. They were working on Lightseekers well before they even got the IP for Warhammer. Oh, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. There we go. And a lot of the ideas, they probably implemented into the game before they even got Warhammer as themselves. So then they just took some of those ideas and put it into Warhammer first because it worked a lot better. And now they're finally showing us the Lightseekers because there was like a 1-year delay on getting this product out to us. So I'll give them that. I mean, it's fine. I started a lot of people helping keep it up. Dude, that's awesome. That is awesome. But we have a great community here. The community at Lightseekers is just, it's so helpful and pleasant to be a part of. It's amazing. So thank you guys for keeping up with all this news and giving it in a place where I don't have to read through millions and millions of chat to figure out what the heck is going on when I come live. So thank you guys. That's awesome. Makes the show a lot better and easier for me to do. But let's just look at these. Like the Arc Ray Mirror and the Doomshade Obelisk, and they have some more down here, obviously one for each order. When you play a solar card, if your last discarded card is gravity, deal damage to your target. That's it's an okay one, but it's a constant one that's just going to sit there. So once you get it out, you have solar, lunar, then boom, it's on its 3. Then you can start doing solar, gravity, and I believe we got a new hero that says your last discarded card is always the type, or is the type and addition to whatever your leftmost buff is. Arc Ray looks great with RK, right? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because I think RK is the hero that I'm referring to, and I just don't know the names yet. But yeah, with her out, and you just have your leftmost buff be a gravity, you can just keep laying solar cards, and they're considered gravity as well, so you just keep doing an additional 3 on your solar damage. That's awesome. Then we have Doomshade Obelisk. When you play a burn card, deal damage to your target and draw a card. This with Makia is amazing. Because Makia really wants to play a lot of burn cards, and there's so many actually really versatile burn cards within Dread that can really make this card shine, I believe. So it should be interesting to see how the Doomshade Obelisk really works. Also, you're drawing a card whenever you lay a card, so this could really potentially be in a like a small. Oh God. What's that 4-cost Dread buff that's whenever you play a card, draw a card, and increase all damage by 2? It's essentially that. I want to say Veil of Shadows, but I don't think that's right. Anyway, you guys know what combo buff I'm talking about. Breath of Veil. Thank you. Yeah. Then the Ancient Carving. Healing. Reduce damage by 6. This one obviously just goes to it, and you're done. Elemental, then attack, then you heal for 6. Yeah, I mean, Ancient Carving it's a fine one. I mean, it could be good in it's also just a constant earth buff out there, could help you when you to that point. Ancient Amber, at the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to your target, increases by 2 if your hero's deck is empty. Breach the Veil. Oh, might be. Breach the Veil, yeah. Ancient Amber looks very interesting. It is just once it's out there, just 2 damage. It's exactly what nature loves to do. Runs off of insects, could be really fun to do. I will give my own thoughts on how all these orders, because they do have the developer insight that we'll talk about next. Obviously, their Stormborn Egg and their Light Core Gauntlet. After one of your action blocks has entered play, you can rotate it 2 steps forward. That one, out of all of them, looks insane. That one looks like there's so much just ridiculous card synergy for Stormborn Egg to just like cycle through all of these extremely powerful buffs and get them going super fast, especially if you want to splash lightning into something else. Like Tech really wants to move its stuff forward too. You just rotate it 2 steps forward and you have your Colossi Cannon on board. Like, Stormborn Egg looks nuts, and it's all because of board manipulation. Whenever you remove any of your own buffs, deal damage to your target. This one, once again, fits very much into their new archetype they're trying to go with Tech, of the sort of self-sacrifice with your buffs, which I think is really cool. I think it'll be a fun archetype to delve into. Square corners, obviously, is, square corners. They stay there until they're removed or returned. So you got to find a way to rotate it off. And as in Tech, there's several ways to do that, which is how you can get to a 9 damage off of 1 buff. They did rechange a lot of these cards, as we will see when we go through Mud Turtle's list. To kind of rotate it out, obviously, Chronomoth is now no longer 3 damage, draw a card. 4 damage, rotate an action buff forward. That's awesome. I'm okay with that. A new card we got, Rush Tactician. Take a damage, draw 2 cards. You may rotate one of your action buffs 1 step forward. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Now, this card, Black Market Dealer here, this is going to be, and I'm calling it right now, this is going to be the new blacksmith. The Black Market Dealer is going to be the new blacksmith of the game. Because you can play 1 artifact card, which is a family specific. Like, it's not an item, it's an entire family. And you can play it from your deck or your discard pile. Like, that's the huge part. You can play it from your discard pile without consuming an action and without stat restrictions. This this is going to be nuts. Like, yes, it has burn, so you can't bring it back, but it gives you an additional action, lets you play a card from your discard pile or your deck, and just put it out there. And obviously, a lot of these artifact cards are the more like, got to get a quest done for it and stuff like that. It's not core set, though. That's fine. I mean, a lot of these artifacts they're putting out probably won't be core set, so they really want to put this in where you're trying to do a lot with the artifacts as well. It's not additional action. True, that's true. It's not initial action. It just doesn't consume an additional action. So I guess it's fine. But the fact that you get to bring it back from your discard pile is a huge thing. Especially if you're going into, like, facing someone who's milling you out. Goes in your discard pile. Oh, okay, well then I'll just put it back into play. You can't get rid of the artifact just by milling it or doing anything like that. It's huge tempo. After you lay it, someone tries to kill it. No, it comes back. It does its thing. But yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculously good. And it's an Umbron, so it could work really well in Dread. I feel like Dread is getting a huge boost this time around just because of how good some of these Umbron cards are. And I do believe there was a new Dread card revealed that had something to do with deals damage when you use an ability equal to how many shadow buffs you have in play. And that's just the Abyss package right there. That's nuts. The card beneath it is amazing too. I mean, yeah, this is so good. And then, which one are you referring to? Oh, the Midnight Raiders is the Shadow League. That's true. That's very true. But yeah, 4 damage, you may rotate one artifact buff on the recipient one step backward, or one of yours one step forward. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I just woke up a little bit ago. But yeah, Midnight Raiders it's just really good, especially if, depending on how, good morning, Lanticus Cecilia, and how much you want to rotate these things forward or prevent your opponent from doing it. Obviously, Midnight Raiders is going to be good in an artifact deck of its own, because you're going to want to move your stuff forward as much as possible. But it's a counter if your opponent is also running artifacts. You can delay them from getting them off. Or it's just 4 damage. I mean, I would have personally been fine with 3 damage on this thing. That would have been fine. You wouldn't run it? I mean, that's fine. There's probably several ways to move your artifacts forward. It's 4 damage, which makes it okay. I can honestly see this being more running a heavy Umbron-based deck than a real artifact deck. Just because there's not a whole lot of strong Umbron cards out there right now that we've seen. And this one just is 4 damage, and if you're going against someone who's playing artifacts, you can delay them a turn. So, if you're making a very Umbron-heavy Dread deck, a 4 damage card is fine. It's fine. It has some tech, just like Flame Chained Elder. It has some tech you could do. Draw cards and damage to your target equal to the number of artifact buffs you have in play. Ravenous Creeble, I don't know. The way I'm looking at this is it instinctively reminds me of Fungal Farmer, with it's relying on how many specific type of buff you have on board to draw you cards. But then you have to remember artifact buffs really rely on you playing other specific cards, even family specific cards. So Ravenous Creeble, I don't know how much cards it's actually going to draw you, if it's worth playing over the 2 Umbron cards that draw you cards. I'll have to see how many actually artifact buffs I can have out on the board at that time, to see if the card gets you as much value as like Umbron Barkeep or stuff like that. Because the damage that it does is almost negligible. It's like 2 damage if you have 2 buffs up, but you get to draw 2 cards. I don't know. I'll have to see how actual beneficial these artifact buffs are to stick on the board, now that we are going into a very more buff-centric play style, getting restricted on buff removal as well. But Ravenous Creeble, I see it as an okay one. We'll see. Fatal Zeph, play the nature card. Yeah, no, that one looks so dumb. Like, so stupid good. Yeah, Spirit of the Forest and Ravenous Creeble, play 3 buffs in your deck, draw 3 cards. It looks ridiculously good. Especially when you're like, hey, once my deck is empty, a lot of my things get better. And, like, just ridiculous things like that. There's some really cool card synergies that we're seeing already. And then the Council Hall, so location, Relic, then you heal for 2, Look at the top 5 cards, draw 2 of them. I mean, it's okay. Nothing too fancy. Shadowbound Comet. This one, I'm really excited just because there's a more Umbron centric, because these 3 colors have a lot of Umbron to do with them. But a lot of the Umbron support is actually coming from Poison and Shadow. So I don't know, unless they're adding in a new lot of Fire and Mountain, or Fire and Earth, that Umbrons will be really going into him. Well, I'll have to see once the whole set comes out. But his card pool, it looks interesting. It's not that far off of Magrox, so I'll have to see how well it does. But when you play an Umbron card, you may rotate one of your artifact buffs one step forward. So obviously a lot of artifacts are coming into play as long as you're just laying Umbron cards. And then when another hero removes any of your artifact buffs, deal 2 damage to them. Shadow and Fire, there you go. Yeah, I mean, and as we've been seeing, there's an Umbron card that rotates one of your artifacts. So that Umbron card will rotate it 2 steps forward. So that'll be really good with him. That'll be really good with him too. Time for Abyss Steamroller. I mean, this guy just looks... This is just so fun. I'm excited for a lot of, like, almost all of these cards. So I don't think there's a single card out there that I'm like, nah, we'll see. No, all these cards, I want my hands on them all. I really do. So that was, like, the new mechanic is the artifacts and how awesome they're going to be on just constant buffs on board. The only thing, I'm sitting here thinking about that, and there are a lot of constant ones, is... Nature has always been the one to have the widest board possible. Keep all your buffs on board, restart them with the time being. Obviously, Dread was very good at it too with its Clink Corner Abyss package, have a wide board and stuff like that. So giving everyone buffs that stay on board is going to be a very interesting choice to see how a lot of these playstyles join up. And this is actually the one I really wanted to talk about today of where they're going with kind of new and previously built archetypes for their classes, because there are some that I really like, and there are some that I'm just like, really? Like, I'm not sure if that's the one I would have chosen right off the bat, for like really refining some of these, because before, and let's be honest here, before this, there haven't really been a lot of archetypes that have stuck and worked really well in this game, outside of like the Abyss archetype, which is just the Abyss family. There have been some elementals that have worked in some of the orders, but nothing to the part where they actually made the best support for it to run the way it was supposed to run. The underlying Kreebel artifact, it's just Kreebot, but 7 times slower. Really? Oh man, I need to look at that. For the playoffs. Oh, playoffs is going to be nuts. I can't wait to comment on that. But so basically they're talking about a lot of these new archetypes that they're trying to do with the stuff. And Astral's one is they really wanted to design Astral around aggressive mill, which is awesome because they already have a lot of tools with Astral to be aggressive mill. They have Onyx, which we built an amazing Onyx deck that we've actually had to splash poison in because there wasn't a whole lot there. But there have been a lot of really good solar and lunar cards to get some aggressive mill going on, which is amazing to see. And their playstyle of obviously discarding your opponent's deck, but at the same time dealing damage that way. Like, that's how it does its damage, with aggressive mill. And that's a great archetype to try and choose from because it's you proactively doing something. And they came in here and they made some really amazing cards. When your target discards a card effect, deal damage to them. Wilderness Judge is insane. Like, whenever they discard a card, 4 damage to them. So this is potentially 12 damage, and there's a lot of discard effects you can trigger off of. Obviously, you can only trigger off once per each card once per turn, so it's exactly the Onyx ability. You can't get one card to trigger multiple times for several discards. It's only every time they discard for a card effect. That's what happens. Oh yeah, dude, that Unveil combo they have for Astral now looks insane. Yeah, a lot of their really good discarding is starting to be in Gravity now. So I think Astral itself is just going to have a really refined mill. And then if you want to play Onyx, obviously there's the fun crystal cards that do it as well. but it's not going to be as good as running Gravity in it. So we'll see what happens. But Wilderness Judge just looks insane. You have Prowling Shade Gorger. Damage to your target. Your target discards 1 card from their hand. Obviously, it's just 3 damage, discard a card for 1 corner. That's really good. That's nuts. That is so good for Solar. And then reduce damage received by 1. So it's a little bit of damage reduction. And then when your target discards a card from a card effect, restart this buff. That's awesome. That's consistent damage prevention as long as they're discarding cards. And there's a lot of things that just make them discard cards. And its Lunasaur can go really well, as we discussed in an Onyx build too. And then the Claw Mark of Nuka. This one, we got the art from Benny as a spoiler. This one is just awesome. When you deal three or more damage to another hero, discard the top 2 cards from their deck. That is so good. That is so good. Hey, look, this thing deals 3 damage. Awesome. Hey, look, this is a Chimchuu, and their last corner they want to do is a Chimchuu. Awesome. Hey, guys, guess what? This is going to deal 4 damage. And make them discard a card, or whenever you discard a card. So 4 damage, discard a card. Cool. Just imagine having this on the board, okay? 3 damage, discard a card. So this will deal 3 damage. Triggering this, make them discard the top 2. This will deal 4 damage to them after they discard the top 1, which will then re-trigger this to discard the 2, which I think will be it, because this card would make them discard, which will trigger this damage. So this card will make them discard, so it'll stop the effect. Then this card makes them discard. This card makes them discard now, which means this triggers again for 4 damage, which will trigger this again to discard the top 2. So that is already 6. That's 6 cards from their deck and 1 card from their hand that just got milled with these 3 cards. If I'm understanding how everything kind of works in that scenario of how they trigger off of one another, because it doesn't say this one can only be triggered like once per card per turn. It's just how that works, which is just insane. And also, mind you, you just did 11 damage to him. 11 damage, removes 7 cards. That's so good. That is so good. Like, I cannot wait to play Astral Aggressive Mill. I love playing Mill in every single type of game. And now that we're finally getting an Aggressive Mill, I am an Astral fan 100%. I used to be Nature, but I am 100% an Astral fan. I love this archetype, and I love how many good cards are coming out of it. And I cannot wait to get my hands on every single one of them. They look so good. They look so good. And then, of course, Unveil the Enemy. Discard the top 3 cards from the recipient's deck. If they included a defend card, they must also discard 2 cards in their hand. If they include an attack, heal for 8. That is nuts. That is so nuts. Like, what were they thinking? Unveil the Enemy is going to be amazing. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be so good. And now we go to Dread. And Dread has always been there, thrown out with Commander, right? Dread has always been their play style of kind of Graveyard Recursion. Use the undead, manipulate your discard pile to the way you want it to. And the way they're going forward with this is, it's not necessarily bringing stuff back from your discard pile. It's manipulating the top card of your discard pile, kind of what Astral does, by moving things around, by moving things to the top of your discard pile, so you can really get that, if this is on the top of your discard pile, your opponent's healing's reduced, or deal 1 damage to your opponent. All these really cool things they already have with Dread. And as it's under play, when you use its ability, when its ability is used, move any card in your discard pile to the top of your discard pile. That's really cool. And it's Dread. So, like, putting with a Puppet Master, just the way I'm thinking about this, putting the Puppet Master, if you play Mountain in this, you can always bring that Colossi Idol to the top and make it so no one can play combos as long as this is on top. Like, there's just so much manipulation that Dread can do with the discard pile, and all the cards that we've been seeing on the top of the discard pile to just be insane. Playing this Puppet Master in Astral alone means you get to bring that 1 Chimchuu on top almost constantly to make it so the top card of your discard pile is always everything. That's nuts. Really like the Puppet Master and Zealot. 4 damage if this is on the top of your discard pile, your undead buffs can't be removed. Yeah, exactly. That's super good. Like, there's a lot of really cool things. I think Puppet Master actually there's another card they made similar to this for another order that's I don't want to say it's Chimchar. It might be. Oh God, was it? It wasn't Elementals. There's another card like this that works with the families that they put out recently too. Um, I can't for the life of me think of the card. The insects ones, yes, the Mantix Weaver. If as long as it's on the top, your insects buffs can't be removed. Thank you, Fatal Zeph. Thank you for being on top of my dumb mind this morning. And then Putrescent Shade. While this is on the top of your discard pile, increase damage by your undead cards by 1 and reduce your target's healing by 1. That's really good. That's really good. Your undead buffs can't be removed. They're really starting to hone in on the undead family that they're doing. 4 damage, you may discard the top card of your deck and move 1 card from your deck to your discard pile and move this card to your deck. This one actually looks very interesting to me. This one actually looks very interesting to me. It is 4 damage, so yeah, it's awesome. But then you literally get to put 2 cards that you want from your deck into your discard pile. Or at least the top one goes, and then 1 card of your choice goes into your discard pile to move this one back. And there's a lot of things that we've been seeing in Dread that are like, hey, I want this in my discard pile so I can bring it back easier. Or a lot of really interesting things that I use with Graveyard Recursion. So Vain Aristocrat, it may look kind of like, 4 damage, I might be able to put it back in my deck with a lot of resources. But at the same time, we've already been seeing a lot of really cool interactions that you can do by putting cards in your discard pile and then bringing them back. So Vain Aristocrat, I see a lot of potential for. It depends on what other cards we can get with it and what is going to happen. We still need to drop down the healing with all these crazy big smacking cards. Yeah, like the healing, I'll like as soon as the entire set comes out, I'll have to do like a big review of my thoughts on what's happening with the game and such like that. But I mean, there's so much changes. It's really hard to give my review on these cards because everything is changing. So it's like, oh yeah, this card works really well, but these other cards worked well before, but then they all changed. I'm like, well, now I can't compare anything to whatever they're doing. It's almost like giving a review on a brand new game. It's really hard to do. So I'm just kind of giving my thoughts on these cards for right now. But yeah, Nitro Heal is in core set and won't be legal first rotation. Tech is dead. I wouldn't say Tech is dead. Nitro Heal was good. It was a staple, A, because it was a big heal swing, and B, because it cost 1 of everything. But I wouldn't say Tech is dead. I would not say Tech is dead, because, I mean, you think about it, if that was the one buff that you're like, oh, this is what keeps Tech alive. What? Like, no, Tech was alive because it had a lot of really good draw resources and damage resources. Every set is getting revamped. I wouldn't say Auto Scrapper says no. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good cards. I wouldn't say 1 combo buff removing is dead. No. Because once again, you're comparing those cards being changed and still assuming the game is going to stay the same. And it's not. Every card that's changing is a change. But then saying, oh, it's dead because it got changed to this. It's like, yeah, but when you think about it, 400 plus almost 500 cards are being changed. The game isn't the same as it is. It's not dead. It's just different. Twisted Necromancer. As in display, discard 1 card for, and then you get healing. You remove your last discard undead buff into play. That's awesome because A, as we've discussed before, you get to manipulate the top card of your discard pile. So you get to move the undeads to the top for which ones you want to put in. There's a lot of really cool things that they're doing here, and I am super excited to see this. And obviously, again, with Puppet Master, Starhorn Tusker, just put that on top, 4 damage with an ability. Just right there with Puppet Master. Always keep it on top. Because it's when you use the ability, so you trigger the ability, move Tusker on top, then the damage becomes 4. That's how it will trigger. Which is just insane. Yeah, insane. Mountain, so I'm going to just kind of reread this. Oh, guys, don't hate on Tech so much. Saying Tech's been dead since the Zuna nerf and Crazed Bomber. No. Tech just needs to, it was at a crossroads and it needed to take a different direction. That's all. And it's not dead. Mud Turtle says Mountain has been underwhelming. The Mountain reviews or Mountain itself? Because you've been built several good Mountain decks, man. Um, but the Mountain reviews, it's like the Barbarian of any game. It's the basic, hey, we have good attacks, we have good defense. We're a generalistic thing. But what Mountain is trying to do, if I remember, is they're trying to really go heavy on their heavy hitting four corner buffs. Is their generalist of what they're doing. The Flame Fist Umbra, the Stubborn Everrock, a lot of these things. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to do. Oh, with the reviews? Yeah. I mean, yeah. But this just gives me hope for Wrathshard and all these other amazing four corner buffs. Yeah. That Fort Havoc Pyromancer is an attack ability on. It stays on corner 3 for Umbron, of course. So there you go. There's another Umbron card for fire. 5/4 then 3, but it's on the fourth corner. So there's a lot of ways to increase the fourth corner. 3 damage, restart one of your action buffs on its fourth corner. So you get to restart a Prism Cannon. You get to restart a Flame Fist Umbron. You get to restart a lot of things. Banshee, Banished Seer looks pretty interesting. Firebrand Relic, damage to your fourth corner buffs is increased by 2. I don't know how well it'll be. It's essentially like you get to put this in and make almost every deck a Wrathshard in a better way. Because Wrathshard isn't cool enough. I mean, he could always be better. He could have more crystals and everything. The Geohive Buzzer. And mind you, this is... Oh, it's crystal, so you couldn't be able to put this in that new Mythic Hero. Unless you splash crystal in, of course. Or you could just rotate him forward with that Umbron that rotates your relics forward, too. So you very well could put Firebrand Relic in there and then spin it forward. You could easily do that. And then, of course, run, the Abyss package on their fourth corner to have them go nuts. Geohive Buzzer, 3 damage. You draw cards equal to the number of buffs on their fourth corner. This one is another one that I'm sitting here like, I'm reading this kind of the way Fungal Farmer is, where there's a lot of buffs that have to be there, but these like all require them to be on their fourth corner. So for this one to stick, you need to have a lot of buffs that stay on their fourth corner, or manipulate them to get there on that turn, and then draw equal to it. I'm not sure if I see this one as viable. Because yes, you can have a lot of corners before. Obviously, this one will stay in its fourth corner. There's a lot of buffs out there that you can manipulate to their fourth corner. A lot of things like that. But really, you want to get at least 2, maybe 3 card draw off of this one for it to be viable. And for that, I'm just like, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we're going to do a more, like this is actually a support card for other classes that have a lot of good fourth corner buffs and can stay there. I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about this one as its draw condition is very conditional. It'll have to see how often we actually get there with that condition. But keeping your buffs on their fourth corner for this one and having the action open up to draw, usually when you get your buffs to their fourth corner and they do their things, that's when you like really want to hit home. Because if they're all fourth corner buffs, they're all doing their massive damage on that. That's the part where you're wanting to kill them and not really draw cards and refresh them. That's where I'm also looking at this. Truestone says hi. Dude, I cannot wait. Now that Truestone is actually mechanical superior, so happy with that change. So happy with that change. So yeah, Geohive Buzzer, I'm just like, once my corners get to their fourth corner, that's when I really just want to kill them. That's really when I just want to kill them. And if anything, you could look at this card and be like, oh, it's the old Chronomoth. As long as you have one corner, it's a fine card. Which is true. Which is true. As long as you have one buff on its fourth corner, this card is a Chronomoth. And Chronomoth was seen run a lot. So maybe this is just an okay card to run. Yeah. Yeah. Which is... It's weird to see that. Because with the aggro playstyle, it was very buffless. It was like attack, attack, attack. And this one is like, it's... For the aggro playstyle, you play it with 4 corner buffs. And that takes a while to get there. So, you can easily say this is just a Chronomoth that fits a certain stipulation of you have to wait for a specific time to use it. It can be better than a Chronomoth. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how often it comes down to the fact where once you get your buffs to their fourth corners, if you haven't just killed them. That's like 8 damage plus 2, that's 10 damage. Like, you're doing a lot of things. And it's just on my last mind is like, yeah, I brought you down to 2 or like 7. I need to refill my hand and draw, and I'll kill you next turn. It's like, no, when you bring them down that far, that should be your kill shot. So we'll see how Geode High Buzzard actually fits into that deck. And then Tectonic Shift. By the way, Razor, you and Benny are commenting the playoffs. Did he say he'd come back? Because if he said he'd come back, that'd be awesome. That would be amazing. Tectonic Shifts, when you deal damage with the 4th corner of your buff, heal yourself and deal damage to the target. Tectonic Shift is okay. I mean, we have finally an actual decent 2-cost combo. He said he would if he had time. That's awesome. We'll have to find a time to do it then. But it's finally a good 2-cost combo running a specific playstyle deck that we've been seeing a lot of these. That's just heal and deal. So every corner of this you could see is a 6-point swing, as long as you deal damage in the 4th corner of a buff. So that's 6, 6, 6. That's 18-point swing on all these 4-corner buffs. And if you get this out as like your Prism Cannon, as your Umbron, as your Flame Fist Umbron, is going out and doing insane stuff, Tectonic Shift could just be a huge game swing ender. That's amazing. I feel that Mountain is really cool. He said the bad number. What, 4-corner? Oh, the 666. Yeah. You know what? Maybe Mountain is actually the devil. I don't know. But Mountain, the way Mountain is going with their 4th corner buffs, I think is really interesting. It's a really fun archetype to try and deal that has already been somewhat established. There's been a lot of really cool things that spin your buffs forward in Mountain to get things on their 4th corner. They've already had somewhat of an established archetype there that they're just pushing forward, and I think that's really cool. That I do think that Mountain is going to go in a really fun way with these 4-corner buffs, very heavy hitting, as opposed to just, hey, I'm laying constant elemental damage, stuff like that. Mountain Breaker is another 4th corner buff that just can't be removed. Like, there's a lot of really cool things in Mountain that they're doing now to deal with 4-corner buffs. And now that buff-centric playstyle is going to be a lot better, this is going to be a very viable archetype, in my opinion. Now, this is the one, and I am a big nature boy. I love nature to death. I love insects. This is the one I'm actually not thrilled about. I hate to say it. And the reason I'm saying this is because when they're refurbishing all these archetypes, right? They're refurbishing, they're almost starting from scratch, they're finally getting into the full game, they're coming out of beta, they're making new archetypes. Dread is going with manipulating the discard, Astral's getting aggressive mill, Mountain is getting, hey, let's really push the 4th corner buffs. It's all something that you're doing with your deck. Nature, the archetype they're deciding to go through with nature is, well, we'll see what your opponent does. And to me, that's not very proactive. That's not something you can actually build your deck around and control. These are the sub-archetypes. Okay. That's fine. I mean, sub-archetypes based on the actual archetype. But it's like, this is the one they decided to go to. And the thing is, I've been really pushing. I've been very vocal on my stream about how much I actually wanted a self-mill archetype for insects. Because insects have always been when either opponent's deck is empty. I really wish that insects would go with a self-mill or a mutual mill to even like run your own deck out and get beneficial, kind of how Granite was when you drew your entire deck, is mill yourself extremely fast to get you or your opponent to the deck out option. And then once you get there, a lot of things get increased. And then, oh, the sun is like right in my blind area, so there's a line on my face. Like, I thought that would have been an amazingly fun archetype to try and build on. It's a self-mill. And then, get all your insects back, mill them out again, all this stuff to really get them going, so that you actually have that really cool insectoid thing that they were trying to do with when either player's deck is empty. But now it's just like, it's entirely based on what your opponent does. So you really have no control over it. You put the buffs down and you go, okay, now you get to trigger my cards, as opposed to I played them so that I can use them. it feels really weird. And I could be wrong. This could be one of the most viable archetypes, sub archetypes they put out there. This could be one of those like, oh, your opponent does so much that it really restricts what they can do. I mean, yeah, you have some control. It just feels like you're building it and forcing your opponent to play a certain way, as opposed to you playing your deck a certain way. It feels very much manipulative and not you doing something yourself to get to what your deck wants to do. It's you playing your deck, but then forcing your opponent to play the way that you hope they're going to, and the fact that you win. That's kind of why I'm like, I don't like this archetype, at least at first. If this was coming in later sets, then yeah, that'd be fine. But as their first one of the choice, that's where I'm like, I don't feel like I have full control over this deck. I feel like I'm trying to control what my opponent does, but in the end, I don't have a full solid control over my deck. And that's kind of where it feels iffy to me. And as I said, I could be completely wrong. It could be really good on forcing your opponent to play a specific way. But that all depends on the cards you get. And if you don't get those cards, your opponent gets free reign, and you're digging for those cards to make your opponent play the way you want them to play. And it could just be too late at that end. And that's where I'm saying, like, you don't have full control over the game or full control over your deck of what you want to do. Now, there's a lot of really good nature cards that came out of this. I'm not going to, like, disappoint that. I'm kind of not as enthused as this sub-archetype as I would be about something that is a little more proactive on your end. But we do have things like Patient Swampfin, which is essentially the insect one that we got from Dread, which is whenever your opponent draws 2, you heal for 3. This is whenever they draw 2, they deal 2 damage to them. Terror Shock, you're very excited for this? I mean, I'll definitely see how it works. I'm definitely going to try it out. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't feel like it's actually me doing what my deck wants to do. It's me trying to force my opponent to play the way I want them to win. And I don't know. I'm a little underwhelmed by it. I really love the cards that are coming out of this. I really do. It's just that like I said, I feel like you're trying to control your opponent with your deck as opposed to run your deck the way your deck runs. Kind of like how the aggressive mill runs. There's a lot of card synergies in there that make it so that you're just running your deck the way you want it to. Your 4th corner buffs. You have the 4 corner buffs, you're doing it. This one is like, I have all these cards that rely on your opponent to do it. And there's a lot of cards that manipulate your opponent to do so. But it's just, it doesn't feel like you have full control over them, is what I'm saying. You have like 80% control, and the other 20% is what your opponent does. That's, I don't know how to say. I'm not saying I'm disappointed with it. I'm just saying I'm not as enthusiastic about it as I am the other sets. I'll still play it and still see how it does. But we'll see. We'll see. And definitely, yeah, these cards are definitely going into Zelina Bloodroot. Like that one I immediately was like, this is just going to be nuts for Zelina. It's going to be insane for Zelina to play. Persistent Mosquitoes, as you play this and your target draws a card. Your target draws a card. Whenever they play a card, deal damage to them. So this just, you put it out there and it's like, okay, well, I mean, if you put a Persistent Mosquito out there with a roaming zombie, then yeah, that's awesome. If they play a card, they take damage. If they draw a card, they take damage. They take damage from whatever they're doing, right? So it could be very interesting to see how it goes. Still waiting on a card that lets me put Soul of War onto their field. Right? That just passes a buff over to them. The Restful Soul, whenever your target draws a card, you draw a card. That's really good. Restful Soul and Soul of War are amazing cards just because of how slow card generation is for this stuff. So Restful Soul is amazing. Like, this is a solid card because everyone draws cards. This is nuts. This I think is going to be a really fun card. And then, as we discussed before, Soul of the Forest. Ashwood Diva says hello, right? I'll draw 3, you draw 2, and then I'll draw 2 more. Or no, this Yeah. Yeah, you draw two more. So I'll draw 5 cards, you draw two. That's so good. But Soul of the Forest, like this looks insane. You move up to 2 different action buffs in your deck into play. I'll move 3 action buffs. Like Soul of the Forest is so good. And wow, that is right on my face. This is a great morning for me. Roaming zombies are drooling. Yeah. Like Soul of the Forest looks insanely powerful. This this sun is ridiculous. Now I have a line on my little mat here. Ah, good production quality by me. That nature is definitely. I feel like nature in itself right now is coming out with some of the best like meme style cards. That is like, yeah, we can't wait to manipulate and just confuse your opponent on what your play style is. But at the same time, a lot of these cards just taken out separately can be some majorly fun cards to play with. So I am super excited about nature. I just wish their sub archetype was a little more under your control. But yeah, Soul of Forest, Restful Soul, a lot of these cards are insanely powerful. And then Mantic Strike, we're finally getting the just straight attack card that we want from them. 8 damage, increases by 7 if your hero's deck is if any hero's deck is empty. And this is the style right here. This is the style that I really wish would come from a self mill, right? Because think about this: if your opponent gets down to an empty deck, you're gonna slowly wait until empty deck comes out. So why does damage increase after an empty deck check matter that much? Why does it matter that much? But if it's your deck is empty, then increase the damage. Yeah, because you're on the time limit. You need to get that extra damage in to push them out, which will be really fun for a self mill. You really want to just mill yourself out, and then deal a bunch of extra damage. And then there's a lot of cards in here that just put stuff back into your deck, like re-put all these animal buffs in, re-put all these insect cards back in. If that you just like you get a one big spike turn of a few while your deck is empty, then you put all your attack cards back that you just used, and then wait till the empty part. That's kind of what I was hoping for with this whole self mill. We had a lot of insect cards that were leaning towards that already, which is why I was like really pushing for it because I saw the potential that it had. But now we're getting more of this, manipulate your opponent to deal a bunch of damage to them, play it that specific way. That Mantic Strike I see as just 8 damage, which is fine. Could be 15, but you have to wait until the decks are empty. And that's where I'm just like, give me my self mill. Give me my self mill. I'm still going to try and build a self mill. Because if I run like Soul of the Forest, dump 3 cards out. If I run that one Sipid that mills me and my opponent each, there's a bunch of things I can do there for an attempt at a self mill that could be fun. I'm going to try and build it. I don't know if it's going to be a sub archetype, but I do feel like there's potential. Splash Spirit of the Forest into Abyss. Yeah, no. Yeah. Eagle Peak Bow Granites already exist. Do they really? Well, you know what? Granite does its own thing, and I play Granite really well just on drawing cards. So self-milling, I want to see how it works. I don't want no Granite. I want nature, man. I don't want to splash nature into somewhere. I want nature to do it on its own. And then Storm is really weird because once again, it is reliant on your opponent, but it's something that it's 100% under your control, and it's your opponent's hand size. And they're going into a sub-archetype of make your opponent's hand size really minimal. Put stuff back into their deck. This one I actually see being ridiculously strong. Because if you're able to just make your opponent spend their entire game drawing cards and refilling their hand size while you're just sending stuff back to their deck, like, that's really dumb. We've already seen how Blinding Beetle is really strong in the sense that it moves attacks back. I think we've seen Fatal Zeph use the Regenerator from tech to move attack cards back if you have lower health. Like, moving cards back from their hand has been so powerful and potent that having this be the entire way Storm plays now is manipulating your opponent's hand if they have 5 or fewer cards, all this stuff. looks really fun. Just manipulating your opponent's hand looks ridiculously stupid. Um, and of course, it's getting them down to 5 or fewer, so they can't have an entirely huge hand. Um, but just like the recipient moves 2 cards from their hand to their deck. That's so good. That's so good. Whenever you play an elemental card, deal damage to your target, and they move a card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. That's really good. Put Flame Spear in an element or in a Abyss package deck. Flame Spear just gets really nuts. Piercing Bolt, if they have less than 5 cards, that's 8 damage. That's insane. 5 or fewer, your combos reduced by 1 and increase their damage by 4. Like Sky Hall, I don't know why this doesn't have unique. I don't know why Sky Hall does not have unique on it. That's such a bonkers card. Because if you have 3 of them out, your combos are reduced by 3 and their damage is increased by 12. And as long as you're just manipulating your opponent's hand, Sky Hall looks insane. Like, why does Sky Hall not have unique? Why does it not have unique? This card itself is going to be ridiculous. Like, what? Because that just means that, hey, Mystic Shock here, they move 2 cards from their hand to their deck. I don't know if it's before Sky Hall goes off or what all happens. But Blastbot says hi. I mean, TS, let's be honest here. There's a lot of things that are location-wise that Blastbot says hi to. Sky Hall, yeah, it's Blastbot says hi. But, yeah, if you can bring some of these buffs back, that's insane. Splashing air into a mountain-style deck with how many mountain cards that already exist that move like combos back from their deck and all that stuff like that. Sky Hall just looks really strong for not having unique. How can Blastbot take down that whole Sky Hall? Well, it finds the one pillar that it's essentially a giant temple, but it's built on one column. Because it was a very poor structural design because it's in the sky. So they're like, we don't need a whole lot of base. It's floating. And then it just takes the whole pillar down and the entire thing falls and dies. And that's all. But yeah, I mean, Sky Hall, like, how did that get past development where it doesn't have unique on it? I haven't posted anything, but I do think that someone should mention, hey, is there a reason Sky Hall doesn't have unique? Just putting that out there. I don't know. But yeah, then Mystic Shook, I mean, is just, I'll take 7 damage for 3. That's fine with me, actually. But then moving 2 cards in their hand, that's really strong. I've never felt controlled by Storm. That's because Storm really didn't play control. Before, Storm was always just like, massive damage, try to do some things with water buffs. You think Mystic needs a buff? To what, like 8 damage? Because I'm fine with how Mystic Shock is. To be on level of Terrify, Piston Punch. Terrify, from what I understand, only moves action cards. It's 2 and it does 5 damage. Piston Punch is 8 damage and it mills 2. I could see this being 8 damage. I could see it being 8 damage. But then again, you have to remember that in Storm, there are so many different manipulative ways to make this cost extremely cheap. Like Sky Hall. So if you think about this more of a 2-cost combo that does this, then it's fine. If you think about how there are so many ways to make it pay for free, then it's just like, yeah. Like, paying for combos in Storm, I never really look at it as a 3-cost combo. Because there are so many ways to pay for combos extremely easy in Storm. Um, that's why I'm okay with this. Because a lot of the times this will be a 2-cost combo that does 7 damage and moves 2 cards back. In which case it's way better than Terrify. Um, I'm okay with it. I'm actually okay with it. We'll see if like bumping up to 8 damage really matters all that much to kind of put it on that same level, or 9 damage for that matter. We'll see. We know that Ushi is unnerfed, going to be spamming him. Ushi got unnerfed, huh? That's bonkers. But yeah, Mystic Shock, I'm okay with it. I'm actually okay with it. And then Tech is finally going into their self-sacrifice, which is really funny because this is where Crazed Bomber actually would have been really fun, or a buff removal, which is remove a buff, remove one of your own, to remove a second one, like that kind of thing. And they're redoing a lot of the other buffs. Blast Disperser. Whenever you deal damage to your target or to yourself, deal damage to your target, like that. That's really cool. Nerve Dazer. If you deal damage to yourself, heal yourself for 3. Ushi still has the nerf from earlier in the year. Benny, welcome to the show. How we doing? Splash second to Dolo. Let's go. Oh, man. I mean, yeah, you could. You very well could. Damage you deal to yourself instead heals you. The Shockwave Converter. This one is like exactly what Tech needed for how much stuff it deals. Like it's a small Contra Bubble. It's a Contra Bubble on a buff for the next 3 sources. So this is actually just really good. It's what Tech needed for this type of thing. Rough Scale Intimidator. Remove one of your buffs to make the recipient discard 1 card from their hand. That's awesome. I think that's really cool. And then taking Burst Spot. Damage to your target when this is about to be removed. Deal 3 damage to your target. The fact that it doesn't say about to be removed by another hero makes me really wish that the ticking Heal Bot is reworded to what this says. Because if ticking Heal Bot is reworded to move what this is, then all of these ticking cards are going to be extremely fun to play in a self-sacrifice deck. And I don't know if it's already been shown that ticking Heal Bot got changed to where it just says it's about to be removed, as opposed to be removed by another hero. We'll see. I don't know. But a lot of these ticking cards now look really fun. Ticking Healbot is the same wording. Come on. Benny, you're here. You can just change that, right? You can just change Ticking Healbot for all of us. Make these ticking cards just say about to be removed. You can do us all a solid, right? But anyway, I'm actually really excited for these for Tech. I've always wanted to play that self-sacrifice type of style of deck. It was always there, but it was never as dominant as just the aggro tech or any of that stuff with Tech in itself. But now the game is changing in such a way. I feel that this archetype has been opened up to be at least viable, along with the self-dealing style that Tech is going into, or self-damage dealing. That a lot of these sub-archetypes can be really fun to try and manipulate with Tech. So I'm super excited for that. It's just that, yeah, like all of these feel like you have control over your deck. That nature got a really cool card pool to work with. It's just that I feel like I don't have full control over it. And that's kind of where it brings me to the point where I'm like, we'll see how it plays. It'll be fun to try out and to mess around with. It's just like it doesn't excite me as much as the other ones because I don't have full control over my deck. And I don't know why, it just feels funny to me in saying that. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to try and play all the archetypes and whatnot and just have some fun. But we'll see. We will have to see on how these all play. I'm loving all the new cards. I'm loving all the sub-archetypes they're trying to put in here. I'm loving how much the game is changing into not just a, hey, I'm dealing massive damage with attack cards I win, or I'm putting all the Abyss cards down, I win. They're opening up into several playstyles of each alignment, so that not every deck is feels the same or very similar. Super excited about that. All right,